is Joshlin Smith, and what did her mother do with her? You are such a genuine gem. Thank you for clicking on my video. I am Brooke Makenna. But this little girl wasn't just kidnapped from someone random. She was allegedly given up by her mother. This case is ongoing as of March 2025, and there are 3 defendants that are being tried. But the question remains, where is she? Before we dive in, I would like to give a quick mention to our sponsor who allows me to continue creating these videos and raising awareness of these victims and these cases. Today's sponsor is Raycon. I've loved them for years. Raycon has the best everyday earbuds for whether you're working, whether you're at the gym, or whether you're listening to a podcast on a walk. Raycon earbuds are not only comfy to wear for hours on end, they have been designed to fit seamlessly in the ear, but they also stay in your ears no matter what you're doing. They also have active noise canceling. If you want to just drown out the world and not hear anything for a while, you can do that for 8 hours, which is the battery life. And then if you have them charging in the case, it's actually 32 hours of battery life. Raycon earbuds also have the multi-point connection feature, which means that you can listen to 2 different devices at once. But my favorite part is the awareness mode that allows you to listen to something while also being aware and able to hear what's going on around you. Most of us women have heard the advice, do not wear headphones in public. You need to be able to hear everything around you for your safety. So this feature is a must for me, and it should be for all of you as well. And all of that with cute color options and cases. These are the earbuds that I've been taking with me to work from the coffee shop anytime that I go out. So go to buyraycon.com/Brooke Mckenna and you can get 20% off of these Raycons, of these best-selling everyday earbuds. I hope you love them as much as I do. Now let's get back to the story. So 6-year-old Joslin Smith lived in Saldanha Bay, South Africa. This was around 35 miles from Cape Town, and though this area was said to be a very tranquil, quaint town with upmarket housing, there was also that low-income housing in areas such as Dyesville and Middle Post. Now, this was more for those low-income families, informal housing, and these areas are mostly government-subsidized structures. This is where Joslin would live with her mother, Raquel Smith, who went by Kelly, and her mother's boyfriend, who was Jaquine Apollos, who went by Bota. Joslin also had 2 siblings, her older brother Joaquin and Rochelle, and Joslin was actually attending the Diaz primary school. She was just in 1st grade and she was absolutely loving it. But on February 19th of 2024, she would vanish and she was reported missing that same day. Now, firefighters, police officers, canines alike began to search the sand dunes near her home as well as any of the land masses. Drones were used in the air, and top detectives from Cape Town came down to the area to help out. The South African Navy got involved, and the next day, a pillowcase and a bedsheet with blood on it were allegedly found inside of her home. The community was so involved that the police were actually asking them to give them space so that they could work and to stop recording all of this on their cell phones. Now, rumors began to spread, and lots of neighbors were accusing Joslin's mother, Kelly, of her for $1,000, which would have been about 20,000 Rand. But on February 24th, Kelly alleged that she received an anonymous call demanding ransom, but nothing ever came of it. After over a week of searching, Joslin was still not found. Kelly told investigators that she left Joslin at home with her boyfriend Bota while she was at work on February 19th. Joslin was meant to go to school that day, but she didn't feel well. So when Kelly arrived back home, neither Joshlin or Bota, her boyfriend, were there. Now, Bota claimed that he had lost track of where she was, and so when this missing person was filed, Bota was actually found in a shed smoking by some police officers, and Kelly was there when he was found and immediately asked her boyfriend if he had refilled the gas container. Nothing was allegedly said about the 6-year-old daughter of hers that was not with him. Now, Bota was said not to cooperate with the police when they questioned him about her disappearance, and they claimed that he looked as though he was under pressure and afraid. He was pacing. He would wait till they asked him the same question over and over again to answer it, and he also didn't remember who had visited that home the day of the disappearance. His story was completely inconsistent when he did talk.
The following day, you should be able to recollect who was all at your house? It was a straightforward question. It wasn't a trick question, and it had no intention of linking him to any crime. It was clear that there weren't, none of these persons of interest were being completely honest. There were inconsistencies in their story. I had difficulty establishing the basic information as it kept on being changed. I did not have any evidence at that stage to detain any of them, so I excused them from the interview.
By February 27th, Botha announced that he felt responsible for her disappearance, but said that he had no idea what happened to her. On March 1st, 10 days missing, Joslin's biological father, who was Jose, was interviewed, and he announced that he suspected Joslin's disappearance was linked to Kelly's drug use. He believed that she was in debt and had that 6-year-old sold off to pay that debt. He called on the police to arrest her and her boyfriend. After that, on March 2nd, clothing items allegedly stained with blood were found in an open field near the home. These were believed to belong to a young girl, and community members told the media that they had been involved in the search and that they allegedly found a knife with this girl's clothing stained with blood. They handed it over to the police, and the police confirmed that items were found and that they had sent them to the lab for examination, but they didn't give any more detail.
Joined here by Waleed from Delft Track and Trace Missing Persons Unit. Waleed, if you could just, point to us here in this little bush, what you saw, what you did.
We were about 200 members of community and track and trace SAPS members of the lead that we got after we were on our way back to Cape Town. We received the lead and we just returned. As I was walking through the bushes, I saw 2 pieces of items laying in this bush here, pressed in there. I took it out with a piece of stick. I laid it out. It was a blue and white shirt and a pink track. It was like a track pants. It looked like someone that is small, 5 to 7 years old. The shirt was a big person's shirt. It was a man's shirt, and they confirmed that it is human blood, and it's not confirmed as yet if the blood does belong to Joslin. And the whole shirt was covered in blood. I found it strange that when I opened the pants, the small pants, the blood spatter looked like it was just on the top side.
And while the dogs were searching, the dogs actually sniffed out some other items that was also positively identified with blood spatters very close to where the clothing items was found. So we believe that we are getting close, to closure of what happened to Joslin or where she might be.
On March 3rd, Kelly and Botha were actually kept at the police station for their own protection during the search for their daughter because it enraged community members and neighbors, blaming them for not watching over Joslin.
We just want the mother in Kelly to wake up. We need the mother in Kelly to wake up. Her child is looking for her. Her child is calling for her. Her child is missing. Is that child is looking for no one, not for one of us who's supporting this case. That child where she is looking for that woman called Kelly.
A government official stated, "People say she just vanished." No, people do not vanish. Everybody sees something. Whether it's stuck in your mind and you forget about it and later you remember, but somebody must have seen her somewhere. Somebody must have seen who she was with. And a missing children charity in South Africa indicated that a child goes missing every 5 hours in South Africa, and a quarter of them are killed, trafficked, or never found. So this was obviously very pressing to the community to find this young girl, and fast. Joslin's mother, Kelly, would then tell her reporter, "My motherly instincts are telling me my daughter is still alive and in this area. We will find her. I will walk on foot to find her. I will look in every little shack. I'm going to do it by myself if I have to. But 2 weeks of searching later, on March 5th, Kelly Smith was arrested at her home along with her boyfriend Boeta Apollos and their male friend Stefano Van Ryan and a woman named Visma Sagaga. They were being charged with kidnapping and human trafficking. 4 defendants did not enter a plea deal when they were taken to court for the first time, but a large crowd actually gathered outside chanting justice for Joslin. Her biological father, Jose, began to doubt that his child was still alive. Prosecutors alleged that Kelly Boeta Stefano had plotted to traffic Joslin, that Kelly instructed Boeta and Stefano to sell Joslin to a traditional healer for 20,000 rand. However, prosecutors did admit that there was no evidence of this and no evidence that the other woman was involved in the disappearance. In fact, many of the public believe that this woman, who was a traditional healer known as a Sangoma, was a scapegoat in this case. 32-year-old Faimza Sigma was making headlines in South Africa for the rumor that she was this traditional healer Sangoma. But this woman was released due to lack of evidence. She had lived meters away from where Joslin did and had to move after all of this due to threats from the community. But she then told the media that the police actually tortured her while she was in custody.
Then you're not choice. I don't have a choice. So that and this question mark nobody into an alone. Who put and in a cookum soul. Because the time Sissy Mago Kalum Tana, why I was open our two tinning. It is all quite and bullsong, Mamma can be great. Now I go to 4. I have to American a pete case, Yambanabantuan. Where is the high Magalimo? Then the Cobans a festival. I went Babon Baba Kitazine, Pum.
Sigaga claims she was coerced into confessing after hours of torture by police.
Bandizela kwenye room. Noba ipoti room. Bengicela ke mina kubana ewe. Kube kusithiwa mandithethe yoba kwenzeka ntoni na. Kwasukela apho ukuthi mandithethe inyani. Bandibetha ke phansi kwenyawo nasemadulweni, bandifaka neplastic. Galela amanzi bandifaka iplastic. Athi mandithethe inyani, ndiyabuza uba mna inyani ethinileyo. Kuthiwa xela uJoslin kuthiwa ebeziswe kuwo. Ndandizixele sisomba nxose ndife uba le into andiyazi. Masimfake kulaa mtshini wayifuma into endingayaziyo ngokwendlela ababesenza ngayo. Ayaphi na kuyawuhlala ikhona laa nto ithi nankuya laa sisi wayibe umntana, nankuya laa sisi usangoma. But that's
when another woman, Laurentia Lombard, would be arrested. She was allegedly the last person to see Joslin before she went missing. And so by January 13th, 2024, 22 days since the disappearance, defendants withdrew their efforts to be freed on bail. This was believed to be due to the threat of violence against them from the community if they were released. There were actually armed police forces fighting crowds outside to stop them from coming inside. They were using wires and tear gas. People were throwing stones at the police. The police commissioner told reporters that more arrests could be made, but the authorities were also refocusing the search on finding the 6-year-old. He said, at this stage, we do not have a child. Our ultimate goal is to find the child. We still want to find that child alive. On March 24th, rumors began to circulate that Kelly was actually pregnant again. She had 3 children and that possibly she was pregnant with the 4th. In April, the search moved overseas with the tip that the little girl was on a vessel bound for international waters. Investigators were said to be at pretty much a standstill in the case at this point until the blood-stained cloth that was found back in March came back from the forensic examination and wasn't a match to Joslin. By the next month, they pretty much reached a dead end in the case. But that's when Laurentia Lombard had allegedly given a confession to the police, which was not revealed to the public at this time, but it was believed that she was going to testify as a witness at the trial for the state in a plea agreement to drop the charges. So in October of 2024, her charges were dropped as well. A couple then came forward in this case to say they were heartbroken over Joslin's disappearance because they were her parents. And this was not her biological father, Jose. This was the Andrews family, and they had wanted to and even offered to adopt Joslin prior to her disappearance. In a TikTok video, Natasha Andrews would say that her and her husband Lionel loved Joslin as their own daughter. They lived in the area, they knew Kelly from childhood, they went to the same church, they had their own kids, so they had sleepovers with Joslin all the time. She had her own bed, they gifted her clothes, school supplies, they took her on trips with their own kids, and they said that they loved her as their own child. And when they tried to give her a stable home, Joslin's mother Kelly denied this. A social worker would even bring Joslin to this family when Jose and Kelly were fighting, when they were still together, or when Kelly was in rehab for her drugs. So they were heartbroken that they had given Kelly the chance to adopt this daughter out for her to have a better life, and instead had allegedly done something horrific.
Please tell the court, what was the nature of the relationship between Kelly and Buta?
The relationship between Kelly and Buta at the beginning was very good. Later in the relationship, it appeared that Buta and Kelly were also fighting because Kelly would sometimes come to my place with some wounds.
But then a former employer of Kelly Smith spoke out saying that Kelly had been approached by Sangomas, who wanted to purchase her daughter. He said that Kelly cleaned his home at some points and mentioned these offers to him. He believed that Joslin was mistaken as a person who was albino due to her being light-skinned with light eyes. He believed that it was witchcraft that was linked to this disappearance, and he said, "What's happening to Kelly is heartbreaking. She's not herself. She's been bewitched. I warned her to stay away from them." 2 months after Kelly's arrest, she requested to see her other 2 children, and a social worker brought them to the jail, where her daughter, Rochelle, was really happy to see her, ran over, gave her a hug. Kelly was said to be emotional, but holding herself together, and her older son, Raqueen, was quite a bit shy, but the social worker told him to go see his mother, and he did. They hugged, they spoke about their well-being, and that they were being looked after, and Kelly then told them that she missed them and hoped to see them soon. But on March 3rd of 2025, so a year since the disappearance, Joshlin had still not been found. The trial began for Kelly Smith, her boyfriend Jaquin Apollos, who was actually Bota, and Stefano Van Rijn. All 3 pleaded not guilty. There was said to be 90 state witnesses planned, but the indictment claimed that Kelly had been planning to sell Joslin and her 2 other children since back in August of 2023, 7 months prior to the actual disappearance. The indictment claimed that Kelly and Joslin were last seen getting into a white van with a bag of clothes the day the girl was reported missing. Kelly had taken something from that driver. Prosecutors believe that the 3 defendants sold Joslin to fuel their drug habit. The judge, Gayat de Silva Sali, told the court that a missing persons case was still registered for Joslin and that the 6-year-old must be assumed to still be alive. But due to the amount of public interest, the trial was moved to a multi-purpose center so that more people of the community could attend. Kelly's grandmother was distraught, saying that she hopes that Kelly talks so that they can find the whereabouts of her great-granddaughter. During her plea explanation of not guilty, Kelly actually admitted to smoking crystal meth known as tick the day that her daughter vanished. Her lawyer read a statement to the court. Kelly explained that Joslin and her older brother Raqueen did not attend school that day because their clothes were actually dirty and Joslin felt unwell. She dropped her youngest daughter off and went to work. And that's where she actually borrowed money from the employer's daughter, who was Kelly Ziegler, to buy drugs. She then smoked these drugs with Bota during lunch. She then asked Bota and Stefano where Joslin was when she arrived back home, and later became hysterical when she couldn't find her. But Bota's plea explanation admitted to smoking with Kelly that day. They lived together with their 3 children. He stated he was a gardener, she was a domestic worker, and their children was loved by their mother, and he was attached to them as well. His lawyer confirmed that the couple did smoke together on lunch break, and that this was while the children were bathing. She then went back to work. He said that that later Lorenta Lombard visited Bota and they shared a pipe. At this point, when he was having friends over, Joslin went to play with a friend and her brother went to play with his godfather. They then smoked some more tick with Savano. Bota had stated that when he was taken in by the police, he was informed he was going to die and he was hit on the head, feet, legs, and plastic bags were placed over his head. Stefano's plea explanation stated that on the day of his arrest, he was waiting with a cousin of his girlfriend when a bakkie or a small van or truck stopped and offered them a ride, so they got in. They were preparing to exit the vehicle at their stop, but they were not allowed to leave, so he was then escorted by heavily armed officers and unmarked vehicles to a secluded spot where he said that they tortured him, including having his private parts pinched. They then forced a gun in his mouth and promised to kill him or burn him with hot sand or throw him in the ocean. He said he was then taken to Jacobs Beach and was hanging mid-air with a plastic bag over his head while being hit. He said he felt like he was going to die, and Stefano said that he did spend the day of the disappearance with Bota, but all they did was smoke drugs. Now, a police constable who was one of the first on this case testified that he was on duty when the complaint came across the broadcast, so he drove to the area and he stopped when he saw two women emerging from a house. There was music playing, one of which ended up being Kelly, who took the police to her residence, but nobody was there. He said that Kelly didn't appear to be concerned about her child. In fact, she showed very little emotion. They then drove her to her aunt's home where they got into a fight, and then they completed the missing persons registration paperwork, and so he and another officer had to go back and get the rest of the paperwork. But while they were there, that's when they got the tip about where Bota was. So they went to the shack and they found him smoking inside. They found that Bota and Kelly were only talking about this gas. They claim that Kelly appeared even more relaxed when she saw her boyfriend, even though her daughter wasn't with him. He said Bota had said that Joslin was playing outside while him and the others were smoking, and that was the last time that he saw her. Neighbors allegedly said the same, but when asked for photos of Joslin for the posters, neither Kelly nor Bota had any. They had to be given some by her aunt. Then the court heard from another officer that Kelly claimed that her missing child had made her famous. The station commander, Lincoln Sabola, had set up the search team, the Joint Operational Center at the police station after she vanished. He testified that he had questioned Kelly, and during those initial interactions, she indicated that her missing child was giving her this level of fame. He was very concerned by this, obviously, but the court then heard from Joslin's first grade teacher, who was Edna Mart, who testified that 4 days after the child went missing, Edna was out searching for Joslin when they stopped to get gas. It was her and a few other women, and she stayed in the car, and that is when Kelly, out of nowhere, got in the car when they stopped. And she softly told this teacher, I want to tell you something confidential. I received a call from a Nigerian male, and this person said I must play quickly. Edna asked her how she knew this was a Nigerian man, but Kelly ignored her, stating that her child was in a boat in a container on her way to West Africa. When Edna asked if she'd called the police, Kelly said that she was afraid of the community, which had become hostile towards her. But before getting out of the vehicle, Kelly looked at Edna and said, "Remember, Bota is not guilty." The teacher didn't even know who Bota was at that time. Now, when this testimony came out, Kelly actually buried her head in a tissue, allegedly crying. Now, Kelly, like I said, worked as a housekeeper, and one of her clients was the Ziegler family. They had a daughter named Kelly Ziegler, who was a grown woman, and she testified that when Joslin went missing, Kelly actually slept on a mattress in her bedroom. They were kind of friendly. So Kelly Ziegler was watching Kelly Smith sleep sound, even though she wasn't able to sleep herself because a little girl was missing, and she thought that Kelly Smith seemed very detached. The next day, Kelly Ziegler took her to the police station and asked her to talk, and was asking her who she was protecting because she knew that Kelly was not herself. Kelly simply said that Joslin had not left the area and the child was not gone. 2 days after she vanished, after speaking to the police at the station, Kelly was involved in the search, but Ziegler advised her not to search anymore because the community was angry with her. This is when another detective constable, Shobik, testified that she visited the shack where Joslin lived and learned that a woman named Lorenta Lombard had been there smoking with Bota when she vanished. When Lorenta was questioned, she was jittery, she was scratching her arm, she spoke about Steffi, whom everyone believed to be the defendant, Stefano. And when Stefano was questioned, he said that he was smoking that day and he saw Laurentia leave with Joslin and she didn't return. Stephen told a detective he had a theory that Laurentia's partner gave Joslin to a traditional healer. They had found no evidence of this. The detective said that Stefano was emotional. He would smile at some points of the interrogation. He would shout at others. He didn't seem like he was in a very good state of mind. During cross-examination, Kelly's defense attorney stated that she was only calm because her family told her to stay calm to provide police with information and that she had gone on antidepressants prior to interrogation right after her daughter went missing. Now, a Child Protective Unit detective, May Milstein, testified that he had interviewed Kelly Smith and the two male defendants for a week listening to their stories, and he could tell they were being dishonest. So after interviewing Stefano said he suspected that Joslin had been sold. They followed up on this, but it didn't garner any result. But this detective sergeant also said that there was a tip that had come from a farmer in that same area who said that 2 days after she vanished, 2 people had jumped his fence carrying spades. But when they searched the area, even using a helicopter, there were no signs of the girl. The actual employer of Kelly Smith and the previous witness, Kelly Ziegler's mother, who was Carlene Ziegler, testified as well. She said that she knew Kelly Smith for 4 years and she struggled a lot, so that is why she hired her to help her children. Kelly would come to her home with her children every day if there was something that needed to be done or if she needed food. Carlene said that she had lovely children. Kelly had raised them well, but she felt sorry for what Kelly was going through. When Kelly went to other cleaning jobs, the Zieglers would even watch her children sometimes. Carlene said that the day that Joslin vanished, Kelly arrived at her home earlier than usual because she did not drop the 2 children off at school. Kelly then called Carlene later that night to ask if she had seen Joslin. Kelly Smith was said to become very emotional during this testimony, allegedly because of the nice things being said about her parenting. Then a social worker would testify that she was assigned to the family after Joslin's disappearance, and she found files from back in 2016. These files listed concerns raised by Kelly's grandmother. She stated that Kelly swore at her child, threatened him, and stabbed him. Yes, that's right, him, her eldest son, Raqueen. Kelly would then threaten to assault the grandmother as well. The grandmother also filed a restraining order against Kelly, but a week later, the grandmother had told the social worker that she basically went to visit a family member and they were going to stay there for 3 months. Kelly was pregnant with Joslin at this time as well. And so when the grandmother got back home, she actually threw Kelly out of her house due to drug use and began to look after her son permanently. These files said that Kelly got treatment from May to July 2018 and then again in August 2018. And then in March of 2020, Kelly had asked for help for her addiction while living with Joslin and her bio father, Jose. The social worker claimed that once Joslin vanished, she spoke to Kelly about her other 2 children being accommodated in another home for their safety and offered her a spot at a woman's shelter with the children. But Kelly refused, saying that she wanted to bring her boyfriend and they wouldn't accept him. So when Jose Emek, who was Joslin's biological father, heard this, he actually began to collapse in the courtroom. He stood up a few times, collapsed again, and then was escorted outside to get some air. Finally, Laurentia Lombard would take the stand. The woman had been given a plea agreement to testify against her friends. She said she initially lied to the police. She had known Bota for about a year, Kelly for more than a year. She met them through her partner. She would go over to use Kelly's lolly, which is what I believe to be a pipe, to use her drugs that she bought. So they established a friendship while smoking together, and she said she knew Stefano for about 6 months. But Laurentia said that a day prior to the vanishing, she had gone to Kelly's with her own kids, taking the back roads. She saw a white van that day, and Kelly exchanged something with the driver. On the day of the disappearance, she heard Kelly tell Bota to have Joslin ready by 2 p.m. and that she was going to be picked up. Kelly then put together a bag for Joslin and told Bota not to forget she was going to come home. At 2 p.m., she was still at the home when Kelly came back and Kelly and Joslin would walk to the same white van. Mother and child got into the car, and that was the last time that she saw Joslin. But she did say that there was a woman driving who was in green attire. She had a headscarf, she had dots on her face, a green skirt and blouse, and when Joslin got into that van, the woman drove away. Laurentia stated that Kelly sold her daughter to a woman who is a Sangoma for $20,000 or $1,000 as the rumors suggested. The conversation where Kelly had told Laurentia exactly what happened was actually on February 23rd, 4 days after she went missing. Laurentia testified that someone was paying her to keep her quiet about selling her daughter, but she never said who. When Laurentia asked Kelly why she had done this, she said she was struggling financially. When she started to tell Kelly she could have helped, Kelly said that it was finished. Laurentia asked her why she wasn't telling the police when they began to question her, because she knew what had happened to her child, and Kelly explained that she would give $1,000 to Laurentia, $1,200 to Stefano, and the rest would be split between her and Bota of the money she received from the sale. With this offer, they were instructed not to tell anyone. However, she allegedly never gave Laurentia that cash, even when she followed up. But Laurentia had heard Kelly tell Bota, "Here is the money the Sangoma gave me." By March 17th, 14 days into the trial, Laurentia Lombard dropped a bombshell on the stand. She stated that Kelly confessed to her that the woman that took Joslin wanted the child for her eyes and her skin. Yeah, that's right, due to being a fair-skinned with blue-green eyes. Laurentia said that she told herself she was going to be honest on the stand and not to hide anything. She also said, "I feel very hurt. I am a mother of 4 and I didn't know the plans Kelly and Bota had. I only overheard them at the later stage about plans to sell the child. I tried to stop her, but she wouldn't listen. Wherever Joslin is, I appeal to whoever may have the child. Please bring her home. I hope the child is alive. I am so sorry that I was involved." Laurentia's testimony spoke about the abusive relationship between Bota and Kelly. She even once saw Kelly wielding a knife. The defense had tried to discredit her statements, saying that she had different statements each time that she gave one, and this included the statement that her children were with her that day, even though she had previously not stated this. But during the cross-examination, Laurentia broke down, saying that she had made a mistake and was apologizing to the judge. She then asked for an adjournment. The judge then assisted Laurentia out of the witness stand to get medical treatment, and the court proceedings were postponed till the next day.
I'm saying to the witness, earlier today you asked her about that, about the children. Now suddenly you're telling me, but you made a mistake. But you've made the mistake at least 4 times.
No,
and it took 45, almost, do you have any explanation for this?
My Lord, I don't know how to explain this, but I'm sorry, my Lord, and for that. My Lord, I see the witness is shaking and she's being emotional, my Lord.
Okay. Do you want a moment? Ms. Lombard, do you need some time?
Then Kelly's own sister, who is Michaela Daniels, who was also a police constable, testified against her. Michaela said that her sister reached out to her about a missing child, but Kelly said she would be found. She said that Joslin was still in Middlepost following her disappearance. Her sister stated that Kelly had said, "My child is here in the informal settlement and someone wants to sell my child." But Saldana is currently a hot spot. When Michaela asked more questions, Kelly refused to answer because she said she already answered those for the police. She said, "I know you're a police officer, but I'm not going to answer these questions again." But her sister also spoke a bit about Kelly's upbringing. Michaela stated that Kelly was the oldest of 5 children, but she was the only one who went to grow up with her grandmother in that same area where she would be living with Joslin, where Joslin vanished. But her parents and the rest of her siblings lived in Northern Cape. These 2 sisters did not have much of a bond contact, but when they did talk, it was more of a sisterly bond. However, in December 2024, Kelly reached out to Michaela on Facebook. She then contacted her again in January 2024, but most importantly, she contacted her February 20th, 2024, the day after her disappearance, explaining that her daughter had disappeared. Now, Michaela said she sent Kelly a message back at 1 p.m. Kelly never responded. She sent another message at 7 p.m. asking if Joslin had been found. Again, nothing. So the next day, she received a voice note from Kelly stating that Joslin had not been found yet, but she would get her back one day. But then there was a call on February 26th where Kelly finally told her the statement about Joslin still being in the settlement. When Michaela tried to ask further questions, Kelly got off the phone. Michaela said that Kelly initially sounded distressed about this disappearance, but soon became happy and was laughing, saying that Gayton McKenzie, who is the Minister of the Sports, Arts, and Culture, was financially assisting her now. After Kelly's sister's testimony, her brother actually spoke out on social media. He said he wanted nothing to do with any of this. He wrote, "The focus should be on the important matters at hand, specifically what happened to Joslin. The attention on my sister's looks or Kelly's looks is misplaced. What truly matters is the case of the young, innocent Joslin and the circumstances of her disappearance. What Kelly did to her is horrific. She does not deserve to be called a mother. I ask you to not judge me or my family for Kelly's actions." He also spoke about they all have a different father than Kelly, and her mother met their father after she had Kelly and couldn't take care of her, so she was taken care of by her grandmother instead. He said that Kelly was bright. She graduated with top marks and could have gone down a good path, but she chose drugs. Their parents then tried to help her financially and then offered to take in her children, but she refused. He said they all made several attempts to get the kids out of that situation and to not think they didn't care. He said there are dangerous individuals connected to Kelly and this case, and we didn't want to take any risks. We are fully aware of the potential judgment we might face, and it has become exhausting. The trial is still ongoing, but so is the search for Joslin Smith. Where is this little girl? Is she still alive? Was she trafficked? Is she in the area? Why was no Sangoma charged? Does no one know who the woman was who was last seen driving this van? If they're supposed to be healers, why are they being brought into the case of trafficking and pain and suffering? Is this how traffickers are posing in the community? With the way that the mother was talking at first, I thought maybe she would be quickly found in the community and this was just kind of a hoax for her mother to get some money off of the media, get some help in that regard, and then her daughter would miraculously be found alive. And I almost wish that that was the case here, because a year later, nobody knows where this little girl is, and the most common theory that has been talked about the most is that she was trafficked. I'm disturbed. I'm disgusted. I can't even call this woman a mother, and I will keep you updated if there are any updates in the case as far as the trial. Hopefully there will be more searches for Joslin, and I can bring you good news in that regard. But make sure you are subscribed and signed up to my Genuine Gem newsletter so you never miss an upload or an update. I very much appreciate you listening. I will put together a playlist of all of these South African cases I have covered. It is very important that we gain awareness of what is happening to these women and children and the horrors that their everyday lives involve. So please inform yourself. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to speak up. Your voice is powerful enough, and I love you to absolute pieces. Okay, bye.